G'day and welcome to another episode of Kiwi Car Life, and today we're going to be revisiting one of the greatest Type Rs ever made, only sold in Japan, the FD2 Civic Type R.
This car was unlike any Type R model before it, as it was the first Type R to feature 4 doors. Changes over the standard Civic were substantial, with extensive use of aluminium, and the whole chassis was glued together rather than welded to save weight. It was 50% stiffer than the DC5 that came before it, and thanks to 4-piston Brembo brakes, 225mm wide Bridgestone tyres on 18-inch wheels and aero changes front and rear, despite the weight gain, it was faster than any Type R predecessor. It even matched the legendary NSX and smashed the S2000 by 2 seconds around Tsukuba in Japan. And Mugen saw even more potential in the FD2 chassis because they added their special sauce in 2007 and created 300 Mugen RRs. And they were even faster again.
The engine is the very familiar K20A, a red top, 2-litre naturally aspirated inline 4. However, in the FD2 it makes a little bit more power than the Euro R, the EP3 and the DC5. This one is pushing 165 kilowatt and it makes 216 Newton meters of torque, screaming all the way to nearly 9,000 RPM with the big central mounted tach inside. Of course, as with every Type R, it has a 6-speed manual transmission, sending power to the front wheels through a limited slip differential. In terms of modifications, this one, as you can see, has a strut brace. It's got a Mugen airbox, a full Mugen exhaust. It also has a Cusco X brace to help stiffen up the chassis underneath. And now, finally, onto the interior. Because it is a Japanese import, the screen here in the middle is completely useless. Back in the day, apparently, what you used to do is you would call up an operator in Japan in 2008 when this car came out, and then they would download the map onto your screen. It is very much devoid of features. It doesn't have auto lights or wipers, it doesn't have cruise control, it doesn't have keyless entry, but it does have push button start. But it's only start, it doesn't turn the engine off. You've got to do that with the key. You have a very cool red digital speedo at the top and the large center tachometer down below. The steering wheel looks and feels fantastic with the sort of shadow trim around here and red stitching with the red Type R Honda badge, and it gives you a fantastic feel of the road. The transmission is placed perfectly, no more than a handspan away from the steering wheel. The seats are, in my mind, a lot more comfortable than the Recaros that, say, a Euro R or a DC5 come with. It's decently comfortable, everything is very well built and well laid out. It just doesn't really have any features to speak of particularly. But what feature it does have is a nearly 9,000 RPM 2-litre inline 4. So let's see how that goes. Have a listen to 9,000 RPM. My goodness me, I have not driven a Type R Honda in quite some time, and man did I forget how good they are. On the VTEC, this is a seriously potent 2-litre engine, man. I've driven a few naturally aspirated engines on this Auckland trip, and this one just goes, even out of VTEC. It's just pulling. Oh, heel toe is absolutely perfect. Brake pedal is super firm. Oh, when it hits the VTEC, man, it just goes, eh? They kept the hydraulic steering in this shape, which is so good because the Euro Rs, which are kind of a similar size vehicle, the steering is just devoid of feel, unfortunately, and it's the one part about the car that I don't really like. Yes, you can get used to it, but it'd be better if the car just felt good. And this, because it's hydraulic, absolutely does. And then there's the engine. Oh my goodness me, this thing is a rocket, eh? Like, I don't want to go too quick on the show because I don't want to upset the residents, but man alive, if you wind this thing out, you will be flying on a road like this, man. Aside from the ride quality and perhaps the lack of features, I really cannot see a way to put this car down. It has probably the greatest 4-cylinder engine ever created. The K20A, but in FD2 Type R guise, which has even more power and even more RPM. The new turbo ones might be faster, but this has the rigid and planted 4-door sedan driving style of the new ones, but with a much much more exciting engine, and look at the way the LSD just yanks you out of these corners. Holy moly, man. It's just too bad that these are still 30, 40 grand. It's really good, but I just don't know if it's like $40,000 good. It's just too much, you know? So really that's the only negatives, is the price, lack of features on the inside, which that's not the end of the world, and it's going to depend person to person how much you care about that. And the ride quality is unbelievably stiff. The owner was telling me people put coilovers on these not to make them handle better, but to actually make them more compliant, because the stock suspension is like falling down a flight of stairs, and I see what you mean. It is really stiff. Everything else about it, the steering feel, the brakes, the gearbox, and the engine, is one of the best you will see in any car. I love it. Thanks very much for watching, and I will very much look forward to seeing you again next time.